Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is a show where we get to talk about business, we get to talk about sports, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. 5-star review on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube, and a nice review on Apple Podcasts for me and my incredible guest today. I have Stu Halberg. He is the CEO of Logitix. Stu, how you doing today, man?
Good. I'm excited. I told you before, genuine fan listener. So fired up.
I love it, man. I'm extremely appreciative of that. Always love when people listen. This is my favorite thing. I tell every guest that I ever have on, like, I'll do this even if 0 people listen. So to know that other people are listening, I mean, I see the numbers too, of course, but to know
I
other
can't
people are listening
imagine there's
really
zero
does.
people listening. I'm sure you
It's
see
you and my cousin.
Ellison from Delray Beach, Florida.
That's now I know. Now I know, and I appreciate that it's you. I appreciate that, man. No, but this is gonna be awesome. I'm excited to talk to you about tickets and sports and concerts and everything that you guys get into. But first question, Stu, you know, if you're a listener, you know, first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, man, why do you love sports so much?
Uh, man, I've been thinking about how to answer this. Anyone who's been to a championship event, I think, has the same answer. Community is the most important thing with live events. I think we lost it a little bit in that year of 2020. Being with a bunch of like-minded people rooting for the same thing is just phenomenal to see. The roller coaster that you go on, win or lose, to do it with that group, there's just nothing like it.
It's so true, man. I'm sure I've told this story once or twice on the show, but I was at the Mets World Series in 2015. I got to go to the one game that they won, so that was pretty cool. David Wright hit a home run. I might have cried. Like there was like a whole thing, but like that is I've never felt that feeling before. I don't know what that feeling was. That was an emotion that I've never felt before, and I don't expect the Mets to be good anytime soon, so I'm probably not going to feel it ever again, right? But there's something there, man. I don't know what it is, but there, all the fans, everyone together, just that energy. There's literally nothing like it. It was the coolest, one of the coolest moments of my life. I have a kid now, so
Yeah,
you know you kind of have to have that
you just got to
corrective.
bottle
It was
bottle
amazing.
it up, right? Good or bad. I think I can remember the negative moments as much as I do the positive. You can imagine working in this space. Sometimes you start to root with your wallet, root for your partners more so than the teams that you grew up rooting for. But every once in a while, it all comes aligned, and you get to have a rooting interest with your friends, your family, and the whole cities.
There's nothing like it, man. There's nothing else like it, and I love that, dude. So Logitix, Tix is in the name, tickets. We're gonna get into exactly that, but I guess like what what was it about the space? Where were you just you were just like, you know what I should mess around with tickets? I think they're not doing a great job. It's like what was the impetus to get into this type of business?
Yeah. So my early background, first professional roles out of grad school were not in ticketing. First job out of college
Lucky
was in a
you.
hockey operations department for a National Hockey League team. Left live events during the lockout in 2012. Went to the International Monetary Fund as a data engineer. So I wasn't thinking a lot about tickets at the time. Lockout got lifted. Florida Panthers reached back out through some relationships I'd built there and said, "Hey, loved what you're doing in hockey ops. We need some help in business analytics. We don't have a data warehouse. We don't know anything about inventory, ticketing. Not that we don't know anything. That's unfair to my friends there, but they needed some technical help. And so I learned everything about tickets. I became a CRM administrator. I became an inventory pricer. And I eventually became a customer of a company called Dynasty Sports and Entertainment, a inventory management, dynamic pricing and distribution partner that is now 10 years later, Logitix. So I got introduced to the team here as a customer at first. They performed some unbelievable services that we as a team just could not do. Things like price discovery, risk mitigation, distribution, and arm's length from our fans. They were crushing it for us. And after a first year, I just thought to myself that I really wanted to be part of it. So joined the company. Again, this is now 10 years ago as the 7th employee to build out our data and analytics capabilities. Fell in love with ticketing. My technical, or I guess educational background is in economics. Really fascinated with decision making, particularly around live events and irrational buyers. I talk about it often. Like, it's just fascinating to see all these people make some really bad decisions with a scarce resource like time and money. And trying to wrap data around it is just a fool's errand to do. So I've fallen in love with the space. Spent 7 years in the role to lead our data team. Our founder, a good friend of mine, Cole Rubin, sold the business during the pandemic, and our ownership group, ZMC, private equity, elevated me to this role and just, took my love for this particular company just to a new level.
Well, congratulations, man. I think it's awesome that you start out as a buyer of the product, right? Because when that's like the ultimate, like, wait a second, no, this company knows what they're doing. Because so many people, it's very easy to say, oh no, I love what they're doing. Well, do you actually buy in? Like, are you actually using this product, or is it just kind of like, oh, from afar, I really think what they're doing is cool? And like, how is that dynamic going from the buyer side to the seller side? Essentially, we'll just use that as the example, and like understanding how much more did you start to realize and understand when you actually got into on the dynasty sports side before you were on the when you were on the buying side?
Yeah, that's a great question because it was awkward. I'm not going to lie, it always is, right? Particularly moving,
Oh yeah.
to the vendor. It was an interesting time for us as the Florida Panthers organization. They were going through an ownership change. The industry was making changes. We were the space that we play in. I'd say was a bit taboo. I think there's still a lot written about what position the secondary market plays in the world of live events. Obviously, it's a space that we support holistically, fundamentally, and so not only did I have to navigate renewing our partnership with Dynasty at the same time of negotiating my employment agreement, I also had to spend time with my mentors and people that opinions meant a lot to me. And I remember asking questions like, if I do this, if I go to the dark side, like, is my career over? And half the people said yes, and half the people said no. And I spent a lot of time building up some sweat equity with the Panthers. I don't want to say I was complacent, but I had, I was respected. I had put in the hard work. Anytime you go somewhere new, you got to prove yourself all over again. So going from an established National Hockey League franchise to effectively a startup environment, there's risk to it. So you had all these dynamics of, okay, they're a partner, and everything was above board, right? I happened to work for my mentor at the time, a gentleman, Andre Tarian, who was our vice president of business operations. Could not have been more supportive. The whole organization was supportive. And so, yes, navigated the conflict. Wouldn't want to do it again. I'm sympathetic to it. We've had employees leave to partners. We've hired people from our partners. It happens. We all want what's best for the people that are important to us. Not everybody has that mindset. I get it. It's emotionally charged. It's expensive to replace people. There's a lot of IP you don't want to lose. But we feel like as long as the best interest in everybody is at heart, you can figure it out.
That's awesome. It's cool that you, especially again, you had the experience, so now understanding people that are from your company and vice versa, going, leaving, and coming. I think that's awesome. So you said the dark side. Could you explain that a little bit? Like, I think this is a little more inside tickets than like kind of outside. Just us general sports fans. Like, what exactly do you mean by like the dark side, and why would your career be over going to a ticketing company like this?
Yeah. And again, that sentiment was much stronger 10 years ago than it is now. That said, and we, of course, certainly don't feel this way. You don't have to look too much further than Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill. There's legislation around rights of ticket owners, particularly around what Ticketmaster calls scalpers. Whether we can call them brokers or professional resellers or professional sellers. There is a stigma. It's unfair. It's inappropriate. We provide services and tools to the professional seller community. They're an incredibly important part of our business, as are our rights holder partners, primary ticketing, secondary ticketing partners. We fundamentally believe in an open, harmonious ecosystem, and that we're a large ticketing connector across those systems. But at the time, 10 years ago, to effectively go to a company that was supporting secondary market sales, or, again, more commonly known ticket broker, which is what our business started as a arbitrage risk-taking ticket broker, was frowned upon. Again, not by everybody, by some. I would say uneducated, uninformed folks. I think 99 out of 100 people 10 years later would say that that's the way the world is working. It's an open system. There is this world where everybody plays nice in the sandbox, and there's a lot of value to be added across the entire chain. But back then wasn't that way. Things change, things move fast, of course. Yeah.
I feel like we've all sold a ticket at some point, right? Like, you can't go to a show anymore. Okay, hey, do you want my ticket? Like, here, like, you can have it. Like, whatever. How much do you want for it? I don't know, $50. All right, sounds good, right? Like, I feel like that's just such a common thing. Obviously, professional level and doing it a little different. And I think there's also the bot piece, right? That I think pisses off a lot of my friends that go to concerts, more concerts. I used to go to a lot of concerts, not as much anymore, but it's the bots that most people are always just like, and also Ticketmaster. Ticket pots and kettles, man. Fuck Ticketmaster. I don't like to drop F bombs on the show too much, but dude, they're like the worst company to deal with. So anyway, but I apologize. But yeah,
Oh,
I guess
but
that's true.
just hearing that is why all this is so fascinating. Is you've got a lot of emotionally charged people in a imperfect environment. Now, I think a lot of people come on and say we're here to fix ticketing. That is not the case. I think ticketing is in an unbelievably great space. You've got a lot of great innovators, including Ticketmaster. There's a lot of reasons why Ticketmaster is so prevalent as the primary ticketer and Live Nation as the promoter. They're really good at what they do. The bots, sure, nobody wants an unfair advantage. There's a lot of topics in ticketing that get people really riled up, like dynamic pricing. I get all of it. It is really passionate fanatics. Fan is short for fanatic, and I get all that. Fundamentally, we believe that there is going to be a commingling of primary and secondary markets. You've got some really important players in the space building and enforcing some really great integrations that are effectively creating a single harmonious environment. And there's no such thing as the primary or secondary ticket. It's just a verified ticket. You know that when you buy it, you're going to get in. Sure, there's some things that can improve around the margins, but when you think about ticketing compared to where it was, we're in such a great spot. I go to a lot of events. I don't have problems getting into events. I buy a lot of tickets. I love buying from all the sites. I think we're in a really good place.
Well, coming from you, I'll take that. But I always that one Ticketmaster. There's always the one Ticketmaster story that gets me. It was I want to say a Bruce Springsteen concert maybe, and they like, oh, we sold out of our tickets. You have to go here to buy the tickets. And it turns out Ticketmaster owned that company, and they were jacking up the prices by so much. Everyone's like, come on, guys. But again, we don't need to. This isn't a bashing Ticketmaster show. That's not the point of this. This is a point to understand Stu and his love of tickets.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
thought we
much
were
more
all love
important.
here. All love.
Oh, we are very positive, but there's a few politicians, lawyers, insurance companies, and I guess you can add Ticketmaster to the list of things that I'm not. Oh, and
No,
Philadelphia. Oh, not a fan of Philadelphia, but that's
fair
not the
enough.
point again. No, man. So with that, I guess understanding the secondary market. So you said you guys started as more of an arbitrage dynamic. Like, so how have you grown, especially over the last since your time of being there as the CEO specifically, but over the 10 years that you've been there? How has the company changed? How has it innovated? And what has it become today from what it was again those 10 years ago?
I think even just looking philosophically, when we think about 10 years ago, taking risk on inventory, getting access to buy tickets at a set price and reselling them for hopefully more than that set price. Um, Fast forward 10 years, fundamentally, we believe that we perform a service for our partners and we should get paid for that. And where that doesn't jive is taking risk and losing money. Now, we understand the space. Sometimes you have to, because if we don't take risk on inventory, that means the rights holder partner is taking risk. One of the big value creations within the world of professional resale is risk mitigation. Teams, artists, venues have a lot of inventory. We used to, and again, when I worked with Dynasty Sports and Entertainment, we would say brokers' money's green. They were a good partner. They would do what's in our best interest. There was transparency. There was alignment around economics and incentives. So I think the biggest shift has been from taking risk on inventory, arbitraging inventory, and creating tools, providing services on behalf of our myriad different types of partners, whether it's talent agents, rights holders, professional sellers, marketplaces, travel and hospitality, tourism companies to provide them with inventory. Our goal is to be a ticketing connector offering distribution and dynamic pricing services, regardless of the source or destination of tickets. So that's where we've come from. Let's go find opportunities to buy and resell tickets. Still a great business. Many of our
That's
customers do a hell of a job making a lot of money, really smart. By the way, nimble, innovative, really, really good, provide, again, a lot of value to the industry. We're in a different spot. We're owned by private equity. Recurring revenue is important. It's a different mandate than as we were as a founder-led business.
so you go out there, you work with all these companies, and you say we're going to essentially help you sell tickets some way, shape, or form. Is that like baseline kind of what you guys do?
Yeah, right price, right product, right place, right? So if you think about specifically in the world of rights holders, you got a venue, a n number of seats in the venue. they've got to find the right price for the right buyer who's shopping at a certain place. And what's really great about live event ticketing, you got a whole bunch of seats, or maybe even have GA, but the seat next to each other, they have a intrinsic value compared to the one next to it. The higher up you go, the less demand there is. The closer to the field or the surface, the more demand. Events on a certain day of the week, like Saturday, worth more than events on a Tuesday. So helping navigate some of those variables to understand what the true value of their product is. And then most importantly, which is across all of our customer types, is programmatically allowing all these different ticketing systems to talk to each other. Now that means across every spot in the ticket transaction process, from the origination of the primary ticketing system to the accounts of the rights holders to the marketplaces, all the way to the end consumer. It's a lot of hands touching a ticket, even if it's a digital ticket. A lot of digital hands touching the ticket. We got to make sure that ticket gets to the fan, because buying experience is all that matters. Every time, to your point, you have a bad experience, you end up on a podcast, and I think the quote was "fuck Ticketmaster." Again, I don't feel that way.
Yep.
Really like Ticketmaster, but all it takes is one bad experience. And when you're talking about the scale and volume of live events that we've seen of supply, even post-COVID, even a 4.9 success rate leaves hundreds of thousands of fans with a bad experience, and that's just not good enough.
That's true. Yeah. 4.9 out of 5 stars. I think that's what you were trying to say, right? And I think it's so true, because that's a lot of people coming up. And hey, man, I can clip that part where you just said F Ticketmaster. I'm just gonna put that out there. I could do that. I'm not gonna, but I could
I
do
was
that.
I was quoting
But
you.
no, in sincerity. Yeah, but if you listen to if you just listen to that Pete anyway. But no, man, I think live events, they're so as you were talking about fanatics, right? Like, not just sporting events, but concerts. Like, there is something attached to live events for people. There are live events that you'll never forget. There's a reason why people keep all their tickets forever. That's why there's people that go to these shows constantly, right? I remember the first concert I went to after my son was born. I had an absolutely amazing time. It was one of the best shows I ever saw, and I had like an absolute blast. I'm never going to forget that. It was one of my favorite artists that I've ever, growing up and everything. So, like, there's always something extra added to that. You always have a story. And I think being in this type of business, specifically ticketing, like, what is it like knowing, like, as you said, like, you want to have as many people to have a good time with the ticket as possible, because unfortunately that's like a pretty major piece of it, right? Not unfortunately, whatever word we want to use, but like, that being a good experience isn't going to make their whole experience better, but that being a bad experience will taint that experience a little bit. Like, how do you guys kind of pay attention to that piece and understanding, like, yeah, we obviously, that 4.9, as you said, that's great, but that means that point one really had a bad time. How do you just try and get better every single day at what you guys are doing?
Yeah, you're right. The expectation is flawless execution of delivery of the
Yep.
ticket and no problem, right?
100%.
And again, anything short of that is catastrophic. And by the way, we have marketplace partners who remind us all the time. Their expectations of success is high, and sometimes we don't meet it. In a world where there's 30 different primary ticketing systems, and just the numerous machinations of primary to consumer integration that's required just lends itself to potential problems, and it's heartbreaking. Like, when you think about the fanatics we talked about and these rights holders, teams, artists, like, the way that they build their fan base is by getting these people into the building to see them live. Like, very few people become true fans by watching on TV all the time. I get there's some, but they're usually because their mother or father went to the games live. And so, like, we take some culpability and responsibility of stewarding those fans into the building to build the lifeline and lifeblood of future fan bases. And so, like, it's probably a little dramatic, because we play a very small part in that process to make sure that the fan gets in. But we do, and it's something that I take with a lot of pride. It's one of my favorite parts about the industry we're in, is that we play a very small part in creating those experiences and those memories, and it drives us to innovate. Competition drives us to innovate. We sure as heck aren't the only ones doing this in this space. We've got a lot of great competitors who we have a ton of respect for. So that's another thing that really pushes us, besides just, the message that 1% that you talked about, 0.1%, 0.001%. Having been in the situation, like, it hurts, and it's as good of a motivator as the carrot.
I think it's It's nice for me knowing the CEO of one of these companies takes it that seriously, right? Like just knowing like you go to a lot of live events, you do a lot of these things. Like it's cool to know you're not just some robot that's just like, what's the bottom line? How do I make more money? No, it's like you're at
No,
least
we
legit.
have
At
those
least
robots
you're
too. Don't
saying,
worry.
oh, no, no, no. I understand. Hey, man, private equity. You already said the, two magic words and all this stuff. But at the same time, it's cool to know that you go to these events. You're not just, some guy coming in that can run a company. You really do care and you really are paying attention. And that is really what's driving, at least in some way, shape, or form, what you guys are trying to do on a daily basis. I think that's awesome.
I think is that it is actually in a industry that is admittedly hard to differentiate. Uh, our people is what sets us apart. We have an unbelievable team of smart, hardworking people who, most importantly, care. Our vice president of operations, a woman named Jacqueline Ross, and her team are just absolute rock stars. They are responsible single-handedly for making sure tickets get into the hands of the consumers, making sure that everything we just talked about actually happens. I could literally, we have 104 employees. I can go down the list. Great people who would have the exact same message talking to you, that they care about the end result. And to us, that's not necessarily dollars and cents. ZMC, if you're listening,
That's
it's
awesome.
not true. Of course, we care about that. But, you know, uh, build a good product, deliver a good service, dollars come after.
Absolutely. They will be coming, and obviously you guys have been crushing it. I guess during the pandemic, as you said, that's when you had the opportunity to become CEO of the company. I mean, the conversations you must have been having with people is like, so we don't know when we're gonna have live events again. Do you want to run this company? Like what how do you how are you grappling with this? Right? Like what's going through your heads? Like obviously you're gonna take the CEO position, hopefully the company's around in 2 years. What were you guys doing? How were you trying to innovate during that time when it was like what, at least a year and change until the whole country opened back up at that point?
Yeah, I'll try to navigate some of the PTSD you just brought back on. Funny
Yeah, sorry
enough,
about that, man.
I was a very reluctant acceptance of that role, and I think anyone will tell you I actually turned it down at first. So I am very much an introverted data nerd. I love my hands on the keyboard. I consider myself an individual contributor. I never once went to sleep saying I really hope to be a CEO one day. Fast forward, like it's the greatest opportunity in the world. In many ways, the last 3 years have been the greatest of my life, and can make the argument in many ways the last 3 years have been very challenging. Um, but so ZMC approached me after buying out our founder. It was really important to them, as you said, a lot of turmoil. Probably want to have somebody from within take that role. An outsider just might be challenging. I'm so grateful for the support that they gave me. They literally hired coaches, mentors. Our exec chair, a gentleman named Kurt Schneider, former CEO of the Harlem Globetrotters, got hired to help coach me. And so there's not many people in my life who have done more to support and advocate for my success than the folks at ZMC and Kurt. And so they made that transition very easy. It's been challenging for me personally, of course. And to your point, to do that, to make that transition during the pandemic, while there was so much more than just dollars and cents at stake. Like we were going through staffing changes, we were going through health scares. Like it was, if you think about putting yourself back in that mindset of spring, summer 2020, it's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of confusion, a lot of just don't know what's going on personally or professionally. And so navigating all that was tough. And I'm careful to not conflate the words opportunity and being opportunistic, but you know, live events don't stop. And they did. And it really gave us an opportunity to pull the bus over. And we were able to revamp some really important processes that truly like are the reason why we're doing what we are today. We're churning more revenue with less headcount, which I think is, I think that's the definition of scale, which is great. And that's inclusive of some recent pretty significant investments we've made. So really proud of the team. I always think back to the way that everybody handled that turmoil of just maintaining that personal and professional balance while also keeping their eye towards, okay, the faucet's going to turn on. It's going to come back quick because every venue, every team, every company that we work with has probably laid off employees, and they're going to be trying to go 0 to 100 real quick and not be ready. And we just wanted to prepare for that moment. And while I look back and think that we did not tackle appropriately everything we could have, I think all things considered, we did a hell of a job. I'm proud of the folks that stuck around. We were all, most of us, on pay cuts. Really difficult life decisions were being made. And most of my executive management team, mid management, they've been here since pre-pandemic, and to stick around, they believed in what we were going to do. We knew that live events would be arguably the last industry to come back, and it was. But man, did it come back stronger than ever. So interesting time to think about. I hope one day somebody truly puts out a realistic movie about it so we can all relive those days. But until then, who knows? Go live events.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch that movie. I lived it. Like I don't really need to rewatch that movie. But no, man,
It
I think
feels like a dream. I don't believe that I
it
lived
really
it.
does. I I was talking to someone today. My wife and I, we actually got married in 2020, and we still had a wedding, and people still came, and it was one of those like weird like, are we doing the wrong thing? Like, what's going on? But everyone had a good time. No one got sick, so that's all that matters. But
Yeah.
no, man, I think it's so cool. Like, shout out the executive team there and them being like, no, we want you to run this company. Not only do we want you to run this company, we want you to be so successful. We're going to hire a boatload of people around you, get you the most anything that you need to make sure that you will be successful. And here you are 4 years later. Obviously, it was a very good decision on their part to do that. What does that say to you about, the people, the is it ZMC? I'm sorry, I want to make sure.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
Zelnick
What does
Media
that say to
Capital.
you knowing knowing that they wanted you to be that successful? Like how much more does that drive you just every day? Not only from the, hey, I want to make sure everyone gets their ticket, gets into their event because they love it so much, but knowing that the people above you, the people that are trying to help, they're like, yeah, man, we want you to make sure you can get that ticket in as many people's hands as possible.
It's paradigm shifting. It's life changing. One of the first real conversations I had with them, because I was nervous. Like, you hear all the stigma around private equity, and I asked a very specific question. I said, I'd rather lose the right way than win the wrong way. And if we're not aligned in that, like, this is a partnership that's never going to work. And they, with their words and their actions, could not be more supportive of that. Genuinely, like, I can put 3 people at ZMC on the list of 5 who have done more for me personally and professionally than anyone. And that means the world to me. Now, what it also means is that they have very high expectations. And as the CEO of a private equity owned business, and as much as we can talk all the fluff about getting fans in the building, I have one professional goal, and that's to drive shareholder value. And we've got one shareholder, and they are private equity. At some point, they will have an exit, a transaction. Very proud to say we've done very well for them. And when that transaction does happen, which I hope isn't anytime soon, I genuinely have love for that whole company. And but I have a singular goal, and it's really cool to be thinking about when that time comes to accomplish that goal. Like, it'll be the single biggest goal I've ever accomplished in my professional life. And I have so much fulfillment of thinking about when that will happen. Doesn't change the fact of how we operate the business. It is kind of our North Star, but it does motivate me. I owe that group so much personally. And again, I feel like they made the right choice. Business is doing well, hit our budget since I've taken over. I won't take any credit, all credit to the team. But it is motivating to have people who have your back like they do.
That is awesome, man. Well, kudos and congratulations. Well deserved, obviously. They made the right choice and then invested into you as well, which I think is just like such a cool piece of this. And also, ticket pricing. You said you were economics guy, supply demand, right? It's that easy?
Bingo, nailed it.
Bingo. All right, cool. So what do you do? If it's just supply demand, why why do people pay you so much money to do this?
This is the irrational, tricky part of the business, and Taylor Swift is the example that everyone's using because it's bucking all trends. At the end of the day, consumers have choices to make. They have a finite amount of resources like time and money. But what we've seen consistently, and forgetting Taylor Swift, is like fans are willing to sacrifice like some pretty important life things to get their season tickets. And I think that speaks to what we talked about at the beginning, the community and doing whatever it takes. Everything is more expensive these days. Concerts are more expensive to put on. People are willing to pay more money. Wages are up. Inflation's up. Like, everything is up and to the right. Where it stops, who knows? Our kind of official prediction is that while ticket prices will continue to rise, they will rise at a slower rate than they have previously because so much has gotten outpriced. There's a weird, and similar to the US economy, this just weird soup of supply right now, coming out of the pandemic. Everyone wanted to tour. And then because of that, everyone had stimulus money. people were sitting on the sidelines for a long time, so they started spending money, and that kind of reset prices. And then, so you have a little bit of chicken or the egg problem. Um, Not that there's a reckoning coming, but I think things are going to cool off because there's been some, just again going back to Taylor Swift. It's outrageous. I want to go. I'm not a Swiftie. Respect the hell out of her. Sounds like the show is incredible. She's coming down to my neck of the woods in Miami. And tickets technically aren't for sale yet, but you can buy them online. I think get-ins are $2,500. I want to go to say I can go. Yeah, exactly. Like, who can afford that? It doesn't matter. People are paying. So, 3 nights, 60,000 seats. It's 180,000 seats in a DMA that has a few million people who probably want to go. Like, that's where the supply and demand comes in. I don't know a better path. Ticketmaster's done a great job with their verified fan and their queuing system and all those things. Outside of a lottery, like, how else do you squeeze 3 million butts into 180,000 seats? Well, you let them decide how much it's worth to them. And there you get dynamic pricing. Probably sounds super capitalistic and the complete opposite of, oh, we just want to get, fans in the building. But I think people are accepting it. Dynamic pricing is here to stay. I mentioned you have reseller community who's really good at price discovery and finding the right price, really pushing the envelope of people, what people are, and by the way, most importantly, what they are not willing to pay. The vast majority of price changes in live event ticketing is actually priced down. You're starting to see, for every Taylor Swift event you have a Tuesday, and I'm not even going to call out any teams because every time I do, somebody at that team says, "Why'd you say we're a low demand event?" Even though, kind of have to look yourself in the mirror. Even the best teams, Tuesday games, you can't fill a 19,000 seat venue. It just happens. So ticket pricing here to stay, dynamic pricing, it's not fun. Some things are just too expensive. There's a lot of things I want to do in my life that I can't afford. It's a bummer. Going to see my favorite artist shouldn't be one of them, but it is. I don't have a good recommendation. Maybe next time we talk,
No,
I'll have the whole world solved.
Please. If that's the case, man, you want to talk tomorrow? But no, in sincerity, like it makes sense, right? It's the invisible hand. I went to business school. We did all that shit. I think Adam Smith, shout out that guy, whatever he's up to. But like, I think like that's really important to understand. Like, if someone's willing to pay that many dollars, who's to say like that isn't the best dollars that they've ever spent in their entire life, right? Like I also love Taylor Swift. Not going to sit here and consider myself a Swifty, but if I have a couple beers, I'll throw on the 1980 whatever album. 1989 is one of the best CDs ever created. Shout out, it's incredible. But I just think like, hey, like that $2,500 is probably so worth it to one of those fans, if not all of those fans, that they would have paid more money, right? Like, and so to them, that's not that much to what the value of that seat is, right? Like, I'm sure they'd pay even more. So when you think about it from that perspective, for you and me, maybe, yeah, I'm not paying $2,500 to pretty much do anything at this point except go to like a sandals. But like, no, like to them, that's worth it. That's an experience that they'll have forever. As we were talking about before, it's all about the experience. And if that's what you value high, I don't spend my money on things. I spend my money on experiences. Like, I don't like stuff. I hate stuff, actually. I would rather spend my money on something of that nature because then I have the memories. I have the being there, the doing things. I'm much more of that ilk. So like, hey man, it's not worth it for you and me, but that doesn't mean it's not undervalued for someone else out there.
Free markets. Let the consumers speak with their dollars. Truly, live events have never been more affordable. There's so many more opportunities to go see things. Yes, it means some events are out of your price range, but you can do more than you've ever been able to for a low price.
I love it. Well, great job for you. Obviously, it seems like you love what you're doing, and I think that's that's hitting the jackpot. Like what you do, like the people you work with. Usually, that's 2 out of 2. It's usually one or the other. For most people, I've found just kind of
you must have caught me on a good day.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. And so, I guess like what you said, you guys have been innovating. You've always coming up with new stuff. Like what I have to throw the 2 letters of AI out there. I don't know. That's just a fun one to say, right? It's like AI. Cool. What are you guys doing in AI? But no, in sincerity, like what are the innovations? What are you guys looking at? As you said, like you have your competition, you have your private equity that's hey, you got to make some money. Like what are other things that you guys can do in this space as mundane, quote unquote, as tickets are? Like what else is there to do other than just to get incrementally better at what you're currently doing?
Oh man, I could take that question in a lot of different directions, and I'll even take it back to when we did our rebrand, and you brought up and I didn't even prompt you on this. The name Logitix has ticks in it. Like, we had a pretty philosophical conversation around, like, do we really want to commit to ticketing by putting ticks in the name? And I forgot who it was in our leadership team, but said, if Amazon was sitting in this room and they said, we just want to be the best bookstore ever, they would have never done streaming and cloud hosting and e-commerce and all those things. But we felt there was enough in ticketing as an asset, ticketing as a temporary right to attend something. It doesn't even have to be live. Like, really interested to see. I'll tell you what I'm personally interested in is AR, VR, extended reality. There will come a time where haptically, so sight, touch, smell, sound, you won't be able to tell the difference of whether you're sitting at home with some type of hardware or you're sitting with your feet on the hardwood at crypto.com arena. And when it gets to that point, we are going to drastically change the way we consume live events. And you're going to have just this bifurcation of like true live events and then digital events. I mean, you already have concerts being having digital tickets sold to them, via like a Fortnite or things like that. So digital experiences, things like attractions and other kind of nascent markets, I think, are fascinating. But so we really doubled down on ticketing. I'll give you a really boring answer with respect to innovation. And while we continue to improve modeling and technology can always get better, and every percentage point matters. Fundamentally, our mandate for this year, 2024 fiscal, is to keep the main thing the main thing. We have a lot of great ideas. We could potentially become a consumer-facing company. We could really invest in international expansion. But we have a lot on our plate. We've got really 4 core business units that we feel like, we have varying degrees of success in. And this year is the super non-sexy answer of crush the core. And so when you talk about the mundane things of just like getting incrementally better at what you're committed to, that's it this year. AI has always been something we've incorporated. Those 2 words forced me to roll my eyes in the back of my head a bit. AI has been around for a long time. It's become proliferated with LLMs and an interface, right? ChatGPT came out, and it's these language models, and which by the way are amazing. Doesn't have anything to do with ticketing. We have plenty of use cases for them, just not necessarily related to ticket modeling, things like that. Very fascinated at the speed by which compute is increasing, and that's going to lead to a lot of these things. But what I also think we do a really good job of from a technological perspective is not over relying on data and models. We think that live event ticketing is such a blend of art and science. Going back to the Taylor Swift thing, there's no AI, there's no machine learning, there's no nothing that would have predicted this, not even a person. So even our tools that we build, while you can turn on full automation and let the models do their thing, we want to automate the clicks that the decisions the humans make. And that's really important because this is such a human industry. We don't want to turn it over to the machines. So not a great, sexy answer. I think we actually think of AI as artificial inspiration. I can't tell you how many times I go into ChatGPT or now Gemini or anywhere else and just start throwing shit at it just to get ideas. I think it's super useful there. Or even Grok, using Grok now, which is up there, and Grok on fun mode if you haven't tried. Hilarious, especially if you get bored. So there's a lot of innovation. It's a lot of back end work. Our role as a ticketing connector is not overly sexy. It's about connecting a lot of systems so that the consumer doesn't know a damn difference. There's a lot of work that goes into it. We got a big engineering team who works hard on some really difficult problems, but there are never any problems that a consumer would know the difference. And it's fun to do it. It's not sexy, but I don't know. That's kind of the ethos of Logitix. Just look at me.
I love it, dude. No, and I think that's fine. That's a good answer, right? Keep the main thing the main thing. Like, keep what you're doing. Just get really, really get better at what you're doing, because what you guys are doing is A, important, and B, and good for like the community. And as we said, those communities specifically of the people trying to go and see these events and see their favorite team and see their favorite artists and have that experience that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. And as you said, the expectation is flawless, where there's not too many industries where the expectation is nothing goes wrong. It's the easiest, most simple thing I've ever done in my life. And then, as you said, all the digital hands that get to touch, this one ticket along the way to make sure that it gets to that person. Like, stuff goes wrong, but As long as it doesn't, we'll be happy. And that's the only thing that matters. And I think, it's cool kind of, getting to understand kind of where you guys sit in this a little bit and get the perspective of a ticketing agency, because, hey, I still hate Ticketmaster, but you gave me a new perspective and I appreciate that. Maybe I'll take it back. Maybe I'll ask ChatGPT what it says and we'll go from there. But
Yeah, let me
yeah, man,
know.
this has been great. Stu, I really appreciate. I also do love ChatGPT recipes. Hey, I want to do this. Give me a recipe for it.
I got
That
this. I
is
got
the
this
best
left
thing.
over in my fridge. Make something for me.
Yep. Yeah, do it. Okay, I don't like that. Do something else. But no, it's the best. So I definitely sit with you there. And then AI, yeah, it's just become such a buzzword. It's actually, I totally roll my eyes too, because it's like, guys, it's been around for long. Remember machine learning? That was like the big, like, oh my God, you have machine learning at your company. No one knew what the fuck it was, but like, it's just kind of one of those things where,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool. And now it's AI. It's like, yeah, AI has been around for a really long time. I don't know what you guys are doing, but now everything's AI and whatever. We'll roll with it. But
Well,
sounds like you guys are doing some cool
soon
stuff.
to be AGI. AGI will be the next one that everyone argues over what the true definition is.
Can't wait. Artificial inspiration. I really like that. Stu, this has been absolutely fantastic. Where can we learn more about you, Logitix? What, like, not that people can go buy tickets from you directly, but like, where can we just learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing? And maybe, hey, maybe some of the people that are listening here are on the B2B side and they want to say, you know what, we need someone that help us with our tickets. Why not have Stu do it?
Yeah, we do have a website, new one coming, launching soon. We're going through a bit of a marketing refresh, look, feel, messaging, but you can certainly go to logitix.com. LinkedIn, we don't have a significant social presence being a B2B business. We've launched a Logitix Insights Instagram feed where we are posting insights in and around live event ticketing. Actually, shout out to Eric Nemeth in PR. We were just quoted on the front page of ESPN related to women's Final Four ticket pricing. So always great to see Logitix on ESPN. Love to see that. So LinkedIn, Logitix.com, Logitix Insights on Instagram. Listen to this podcast. I think you'll get to learn a lot about us. So shout out to
That's an
to
easy
the
one.
love of sports. And I think that should be everything everyone
Appreciate
needs
you,
to
man.
know.
I love it. Yeah, those get in ticket pricings for every major event, like those get so many clicks, right? It's like this is the highest get in ticket pricing in 100,000 years. Like, how did they do it? Like those always get me. It's like this is the biggest in this, and it's and then you compare the two, and it's just like okay. But every time I read it, so it's just kind of one of those
Of
things.
course, it's
Hopefully, you guys get quoted more.
storytelling through
It's
data.
interesting.
It's the
That's
best thing you can learn to do is to tell a story.
I love that, man. Well, Stu, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'll put all the links in the show notes for everyone so they can go check it out. But time is the only thing we don't get more of. So I appreciate you for yours. Obviously, I appreciate the audience for theirs and checking all this out. But other than that, man, hope you have a great rest of your day. Appreciate it.
You're the man. Appreciate it very much.
Bye, everybody.